Hi, Michelle. How are you? Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late, but just answering some questions from my colleagues. Okay. Okay, good. I'm glad you're doing well. I think you picked up your medal from the Inland Empire Mayor's Cup, I believe they told me, right? Okay, so let me get the transcript ready and then we'll go through the lab. Okay. Is it cold? I don't think so. I think it's probably plated if it ain't anything. Yeah, I think Abraham was probably joking. I think it was Abraham or someone. But yeah, I don't think it's gold. Okay, so today we are gonna do, also I just posted a job for City of Ukaipa. Yeah, it's heavy. Well, you can do the gold test. There are places that you can, like the jewelry places, you can bring it in there and all they do is they swipe it on the stone. Or they also have like chemical tests, and so they can tell you whether it's gold or not. I don't think it is, right? I know when I buy metals for cybercamp, it's heavy too, and it looks gold, but it's not. Yeah. So City of Ukaipa is hiring. There's a part-time position there. So I put the link in case you're interested. It's part-time and it's mostly IT. Okay. So if you are, you can check that out. Okay. So let's take a look at the lab. Let me open that up. So we're gonna cover all the concept that we touched on in the chapter today. Now, for the geolocation, I wanted to do it a little different than the book in that I wanted to use a module that's going to give you the actual physical address of a place and coordinates. In the book, they use IP, which is great. You can use it to look for system and things like that. So it uses the Geo IP2. You saw plenty of example, and we looked at that during the assignment. So I want to use this opportunity to show you how you can also do actual geolocation using some of the things that Google and other companies would be using. Okay. So let's share screen here. So geocoding, to start, this is a way that we can get the location information of a place and getting the coordinates of that location. So now you can also do reverse geocoding where you would use the coordinate and be able to get the address. So we can do it both ways, and we are. And the script is fairly short for using GeoPy. So GeoPy, you can access the project information there and also look at the documentation. I put the link. This is used for web services, web applications, and other things, even including mapping in some cases. So what we will need to do first is we will need to bring in the package, or the module. So you would bring in by doing the pip install GeoPy. And it's going to use what's called the Nominatim API, and this is an OpenStreetMap to give you the coordinates of the actual address. Okay, so in the code, you will see that we will import in that superclass, and we would use that superclass to instantiate our object, and we are going to look for the address. Now, keep in mind that the address, you cannot add in the comma between the street and the city because it's not able to parse if you use a separator. Okay, So when you type out the address, you don't need the zip code or the number. You simply just put the street number, the street, and the city without any comma. Okay. So let me see. Why? Oh, let me restart my virtual machine. I had installed the new add-ons for it, and now it's not. Let's move this down a little bit. Okay, so after you install the GeoPy, what you can do is you can write a short script. And in this, we are going to use the Geocoder. Okay. And we're going to bring in this class. With that class, we're going to instantiate the object called Geolocator. And for the location, all that is we are going to put our address in the parameter as an argument. And then we are going to use the geocode method to be able to pull the latitude and the longitude. And then when you print, it's going to give you the latitude and the longitude and additional information like the county where the address belongs to, and so on. Okay. So just a few lines and we'll be able to get some information about the physical address. Let's see, right control, host key. My virtual machine is, I had it reboot and it's not going. Hold on one second. Let's try this again. Okay, so while that's going, so when you do this, you can simply write the script and we'll be able to pull the information. Now, when you run it, you simply just invoke Python and then you run the Python file. Okay. You will be able to see the coordinates and so on. So okay, now it's starting. Earlier it was not even wanting to put the boot in. Okay. Any questions regarding GeoPy? You got an error? Okay, what kind of error do you have? Connection? Oh, it's timeout? Okay, let me try it on mine and I'll let you know right now. Give me 1 second. Okay, so maybe something's funny with their server. So when I tested it yesterday, it was working fine. I was able to output something. We'll see right now. I still have the script on here, so. Okay, so So we're gonna have yeah. Okay, so let's do Python 3, and I think I labeled this as Geolog. Yeah, so I'm able to put, let me nano in my file and see if there's an error on the document side. Yeah, so you should be able to see something like this where it would say, I use the school address, so it would say the street, the county, California, some zip code information, and then for the coordinates. So I printed location.address. So you can, oh, I'm using script under number 3. Yes, that's correct. So I just added this line, but I can comment this out so you can see it's exactly the same as number 3. Yeah, so it should be able to do that. So I think check your connection or your network configuration. Yeah, so I'm getting the coordinates here. Okay. Yeah, so my script is the same as number 3. I was able to run on the number 6. Okay. So number 6 uses the same thing. Right. So here's my script for number 3. So I have from geopy.geocoders import nominatim, right? Geolocator user agent is my app. And then location, we would have geocode. Yeah, same exact thing. And then the address. Make sure that your address doesn't have any comma or any symbol. And then I would print latitude, longitude, and then print location.raw. You can also print location.address, right? So if I do a print location.address like this, let me clear it so you can see. So if I invoke Python and rerun the file, so it would give me the additional address. Yes. For the first print line, So this one has double parentheses, the other one doesn't, right? Because it needs to wrap it for the inside. Let me edit that. Let's see. Let me see if I take this off. If I take the parentheses off, let me test it. Yeah, it still produced the same thing regardless. Yeah. Okay, good. So on the you don't have to use the double parentheses there. I think the single one works just fine. Okay. They all should have single parentheses there. Okay, so once you have the output, you would see that it would give you the coordinates. Okay. So take a screenshot and then provide the coordinates. Oh, the single did not work? Yeah, I just modified mine right now. So let me show you. Yeah, so I modified mine right here to have a single. Now, if you're using Nano, I just space out the print so that way it color codes it. But I also added the location.address. Okay. Okay. That's fine. You can use it with the double. I don't understand why it's not, but it could just be the version of new, perhaps. Okay, so we can add in the double and the double should work as well. So let me clear it so you can see. Actually, let's just run it. Yeah, so we're getting the same thing for both. Okay, so the output, it gives you the county information. The zip code might not be exact. I think it's just gonna be, in that area. And it also gives you additional details. So here you're actually using the database OSM to be able to pull, right, the address coordinates. So this is a way that we can incorporate the Python script for the API, and we can use it to look for the exact coordinates for our physical location or a place. So put down the coordinates for the address and then some information about what is being displayed, like the county and some of the characteristic of that physical place. Now for number 6, we just simply reverse it, right? We would use the coordinates to see if we're going to get the same, at least the street, not the exact physical address. So for the next part, we are going to do the reverse geolocator. So it's going to use the reverse method using that particular module. And again, you're going to instantiate the object using this class. And the difference between this one and the last one is that you have the reverse method there to find in your location. Let me zoom in once again. Oops. No, I don't want that. Okay. So using the reverse method, we can find the address from the coordinates, and then we can print out the actual address. And then we can print out again, the latitude, the longitude. So simply you can just edit your location object to be able to output. So that's the code. Now you can do a lot more with this particular module. You can use it with a lot of different things. So if you look at the information that they provided online, so for example, if you go into their documentation for GeoPy, you can also use this with adapters. You can also implement distance. That will be good for mapping on the application. You can also look at how this can be integrated with cloud or other type of web services. Okay. And so on. So there are a lot of different elements to this that you can use, right? And I simply just started with the Geocoder example. So you can see the basic. Okay, so for the reverse geocoder, once we have the script, we would simply save and then we would run. Address log.py. Okay, so it tells you the place ID, which should be closely to the last one. And then again, now it would show like the Timo Street, which is a close by street to the address itself. So even if you're using the exact coordinates, it's going to be close enough, right? Or in proximity of the actual physical address. So that's how you can use reverse geocoder, decoders, I should say. Okay. So after you have the script ran, take a screenshot, and then it give me the general address that's being displayed. So for us, right, it tells you that here. And then also the address printed. So it doesn't give you the actual house number. It's just going to be the street. Same thing with the other one, right? You would get the street. Now, depending on the actual region, some coordinates work really well in finding the exact address. And then in other cases, even if we're using the exact coordinate from the last script, we're still going to get something in proximity, not the exact. Okay. Any question? All right. So next we're going to talk about metadata. And I think we saw a little bit of this in the assignment. So PyPDF2, we can obtain data that would be related to the PDF. We can find author information, title, subject, number of pages, and we can even have the script to read part of the actual file. So what I did was I have you can use an existing PDF file that has many pages, but this is a free cybersecurity book, right? So if you click this link, now you want to use your browser in here to do that. Okay. Yes. Oh, okay. So what I did was when you download it, it's going to put it onto the download folders. And of course you can use the terminal, right, to use Firefox and visit the site. So this is the file once it's downloaded. Now, if we just check out the file, we would see that it does have images. It has many pages, 317, like you said. And then we can send it to a certain page or access a certain page using a script. So I'm going to be back in my terminal. And I want to make sure that I install PyPDF2. So we would do, let me clear this, pip3 install PyPDF2. Okay, so I had already installed it, but it would take a few minutes if you haven't. Then once I have it installed, I'm going to write the script. So in the script, we are using PyPDF2. We're going to import in the PDF file reader. It's going to allow us to access the file to determine the number of pages and pull some text. So this is a superclass. So we are going to instantiate an object called reader. And we are going to use PDF file reader to access the PDF file. So make sure that your file name is exactly typed as it is named. So if you want to rename it, right, if you rename it, then you have to make sure that it matches this part. Then we define number of pages. That's going to be reader.num pages. So it's going to determine the number of total pages that you have in that document. And then another object called page, and it's going to read the first page. So here is an index 0. And usually the first page would have some kind of general information about the book or art or different design things on there. Then we define an object called text, and we would use this to extract text. We would then print the number of pages, the first page, and the text. So let me come back to here. And for that script, we're going to call it, oh, I didn't give it a name for you guys. So let me see. PDF reader. I labeled it as PDF reader.py. So I'm going to go ahead and nano into that. to make sure. Okay. So once we have that, we would save it, and then we can invoke Python to run it. So here it printed out the total pages. It's going to be 317. The first page, it has some of the numerical value represents different things like design things that would go into there. And then to extract the text, we simply have the text object and we want to print that out. So it gives me cyber for beginners. So here, but if we compare to what it actually is, right, it doesn't understand. Let me go back up to page 1. Because there's a break, right? That could be that they separated this cyber security. They separated it so it shows security cyber first in the output. And I think what it is when they designed this book, this is a separate text box compared to this. And they added that in a separate time. So this is probably why they have, it shows up as security first and then cyber for beginners. Okay, instead of the other way around. So this is one way for us to use PyPDF2 to get some text data and also details about that particular PDF. So when you get to the stage after you run the script and get the result, take a screenshot and then answer the question, what text information is displayed? Any question? Now, so make sure we have these two. So for the image part, it is a little bit longer, and I'm using something that is provided by the documentation and also your textbook. Looks similar to this. So to pull image, we can use the same module, but image is a little bit more complex in that you have to access the image and then view the image as a certain type of file. Okay. So here we are going to import CIS. So we're going to use the CIS module as well. And from the PyPDF2, we're going to look at different attributes for the image. Then we have a function. We're going to, inside that function, we are going to use, we're going to have a container called reader. And we're similar to the last example or exercise, we're going to have the PDF file reader read the PDF. We can use any values. So if I wanted to read 154, right, 454 pages, I can. Then in the next part, we are going to set up how each of the image can be treated as object. And for the object, we're going to use the extension to access the object. And if there's no extension, it's just going to define the file name after the second object, and that will be .png. So in the case that if there's no image, then it will print no image is found. So in this one, we're not going to have much details in that, whether we're just going to check to see if it has an image, at least one, or it would print no image found. So in the main, I would then define, right, where if it's not 2, then it's going to print this. Okay. And then we would exit. So for the PDF, we simply use the argv part of the CIS module. So here we go. We would do nano PDF image.py. So that's the script. And then after I save that, I would invoke Python to run it. So the output, it just tells me that this is the output. Okay. That means that it has images in the PDF. Now, if it doesn't, it would say no images found. So we have images, and that's proven to be true in the case where it would, if you look at the document, it shows images, screenshots. Any question? Okay, so for the script, after you're done, save and run the script. As the result, just take a screenshot and then explain how the module is used in the program. Any question? Okay, so as you run this, you would see that it tells us that it has images, right? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and clear this. In the next part, it goes over website technology, and in the book it mentioned 2, built with and wall appalizer. I'm missing an A here. Appalizer. Okay, I'll fix that and re-upload it. Okay, so this is used, so this version, both versions would have websites and Python integration with the API. We can use Bitwidth to detect what is used to make this particular website or host it. Okay, you might see server information, you might see OS information, you might see other things that's related to that the technology that's used to make the website. So let's go back here. Now, if we test it on our regular browser, right? If you go to Built With website, and then what you're going to do is you are going to check WordPress. So using my regular browser, I just put https www.wordpress.com. Depending on the tool that you use to search, and also the content of the actual site. So note that here it gives you a warning. It says WordPress.com is on misleading profile site list, and they're using multiple domains in order to support this. So now it would break down various things, what they use for analytics. So you have Facebook domain sites, Quantcast, Bing, and so on. Then we also have some widgets that would be for mobile platforms and other things. So this is a good way to kind of check out what that website component is made of. Built-in web properties do not work with your... Yeah, so if you're using the Onion router or some kind of proxy via VPN, it's not going to be able to send back the header information and such. So now I just use a regular browser to do this, or you can do it in the virtual machine. With web properties do not work with if you are using. Okay. Yeah, so I think when you're using encrypted traffic, it won't let you obtain some information there. Let's try it in Firefox. Okay, so I'm getting the same thing on Ubuntu here. And then if you scroll down, you will see more details for what it's used. So there are quite a few tools that's used for analytics. You just have to list some of them, that's fine. I think all websites gather data, so analytics is tools incorporate there. Okay. So answer the questions once you have the details. Are you still not able to connect? Maybe turn off the VPN for the time being. Oh, okay. Yeah, you can use Windows. That's fine. Now, if we use built with Python, not too much that we have to do, but keep in mind that this is the simplest level. So you're not digging deeper into what would be available as far as built-in method for this module. Okay. So let's come back here. Let me come back to my terminal. And I'm going to go ahead and look at the script. So 3-line, right? We import built with. We define an object called techUse, and then we're going to parse the URL for the domain, and then we print it out. Very simple. So now after we have written those 3 lines, we would then invoke Python, and we would run the script. Okay, so it tells me that it is Nginx, or yeah, Nginx web server. There's some Google font and e-commerce information. Here's the CMS. It uses WordPress. The programming language is PHP. And for the blocks, they use PHP and WordPress. So once you have the output information, you can answer the question. Okay. So I have information on the languages, the CMS, okay, and the web server. Now it won't be as detailed as if you're using the actual service on the website. Okay. So if we compare that, right, you would have more details via the website. So okay. And of course, the information is going to be the same because it's the same target, right? It's the same URL that we're using in both 17 and 20. Then for the next part, we're going to use the second tool, which is the Wapalizer. And you can use your Windows for this. So we can do the port swinger. So we're going to take warp, link, and then plug it in here. Now, Wapalizer, sometimes it would require that you register to get 50 searches for free. So if it prompts you sign up information, it's because they don't give you just freely. They want to track. So I ended up signing for my account, as you can see there. And then it's going to give me this. So the technology stack for this site is your Windows, and that will be running IIS. So we see that here. And it also gives you the version. So as far as pen testing goes, right, we would start here. We can also use our script. We can find out more about what's really running in the back for a certain site in hosting functionality. And also the front end with the development for the content that you see. So because our target has some kind of service that you can pay for, so you have some payment information, cloud, web services, certificate manager. So they use AWS for a few things. Okay. So based on the result from the URL on the web service here, we would answer the question. What OS is used? What type of server? So you have OS here, and then your web server is IIS, of course, because it's Windows. And then for the CA manager, it uses the AWS or SSL TLS certificate manager. Now, if you subscribe to Wapalizer, they give you more details about the organization, and you can get a little bit more feature. So that's if you pay for the service. It's fairly affordable, but we don't need that for a lab. We just need to use the free version. And again, if it's not giving you anything, it's because you have to sign up. Okay. Then we're going to test this with the Python script to make sure that it's going to give us relevant, correct information like what we've seen from the website. So next, you have to install this. Okay, Python Wapalizer is what the package is. So we would do a pip3, install Python. And then we write the script for number 24. So I have that already pre-written, so let's open it up. So we're using the API, and you simply use its package to import in Wapalizer and web page. Using web page class, we can instantiate an object called web page, and then inside that the parameter we would use the target URL. In this case, we're using Portswigger. Then we define a second object, and this is a Wapalizer object, and we want to use the method latest there. And when we print, we can print it to analyze the web page. We can print it with the categories for that web page. So once I have the script, save, and then invoke Python to run the script. Similar to what you've seen in the other tool, but in this one, right, it did catch some warning information there, but it still went through. It shows me the type of web server I have. And for the operating system is Windows Server. And then we have broken down to categories and so on. So it is, of course, not as detailed as the GUI like what you've seen also in the prior exercise. But it also gives you the general information. So if you want to check out, right, a domain and what kind of OS they're running, there are multiple tools in security that we can do that, and this is one of them. Not only that, we can use this to really see what kind of tool they use to support that website or add elements to that website. Now compare this to built with, right? Built with gives you a little bit more on like the programming language and the details. So every tool is slightly different, but still they still gonna give you the general. Okay. So that was 24. And then as you get the output for 24, we want to do screen capture and then check to see if it's giving you the right OS, which is Windows Server. So answer this question, and then if it's displaying the server type, which is IIS 10.0. Now compare built it with Wapalizer, you would see that the interface, the functionality. So the goal for each of these are the same. Like I said, the output for it is a little different. So I suggest, so mine was having the same issue. I ended up signing up for a free account, which made it a lot faster. You can only, okay, so try using the URL without the extension, right? Like, let me copy this. Without the burp extension. Try it like that. Yep. I think sometimes without the extension is better because in general, it's going to look at the index page, right, for that particular website and to really give you the summary of what technology is used there. Any questions? Okay, so as we complete that step for Wapalizer, we answer the questions and provide screen capture. Okay. Now, there is a small section in the chapter that talks about browser metadata, or we can do some forensic with the browser via a tool called FireFed. That's for Firefox browser. Since we're using Debian Linux, it's commonly pre-built with, not pre-built, but pre-installed with your Debian Linux like Ubuntu. Okay. So we will need to install FireFed, and it is a command line tool that would inspect the profiles of Firefox, including history, cookies, passwords that's stored. So simply what it does is it goes and retrieves the file that's saved for the browser activities. And, you know, so how the browser is used will be identified here. Okay. Now I just want to let you know that FireFed, when I ran it with the other commands, it's have some traceback. So the module itself have some mechanism issue or problem, bug. It's a little buggy. Okay, so just to let you know, this is why I don't want to extend it further, but I want you to know that there's a tool that you can use for that. So it's used to extract password, preferences, add-ons, history, favorites, stuff like that. Okay. So we will do a pip 3 install FireFed. And as I completed that step before where I installed it already, you can also do it with the upgrade. Let's try that too. Okay, so it's already been installed for mine, but yours might take a minute or so. Then just like any command line tool, we will start with help. And this gives you a list of commands that FireFed accepts. Let me try. So you can try some of the commands. Okay, so it tells me the version is fine there. Now, if you're not sure how to use it, you can go to the documentation. They show you some example here. Like, for example, if I want to see bookmarks, I can do that. So let's try it. Yeah, I get the same thing. So I think what it is the module that is written here, it's still having issues. And I also clone it and, and navigate to the directory that has it. And I was running into the same thing. Okay. So fire fed cookies summary. See if this works. Yeah. So it's handling all these exceptions, and that's coming from your site packages or the actual clone itself. So stability wise, this is not fully stable, this tool, right? But I want you to know that it is there. And then we can do the same thing to test for history. We would use a summary, right? So not just so I think there's definitely something weird with this package, or we might have missing something for the install. Any question? Okay. So all you need to do for this is to access the help and see how you would be able to use some of the commands. And then answer the question. So if I want to find browser cookies summary, I would use firefed cookies -s for summary. And similarly, we would do the same thing for history. So we would have firefed, right? And you can see history is listed there. So history -s. And it's also handling exception again. Okay, so I think, the components that are on there for this application to work, there's some issue with it. So you would see that it's not working here using cookies and history command. Okay. But if I do this firefed cookies .help, and so you can go a little deeper where you would say, okay, so what is what when I'm using this particular tool? So answer the question for 27. And I can also do firefed history help. Now they say that this is supposed to run, you can run this on shell on the Windows side as well, but since we're using Linux for all this labs, I want to just use Linux straight up. So, and I did, let me show you, I did clone it too to see if it works. All right. So it's here. And then, you can, so if I navigate to firefed, right, and list again to see, and it has the subfolder. So we can find out what's missing too. So CD. So this It's not a full-fledged tool quite yet. It's not perfect, right? But the book mentioned that it is a good tool for Firefox. Okay. So that's basically our lab for today. And then if you have all the questions answered, and if you have the screenshots and the script ran, then you're set. So it covers all the components that we talked about in the chapter. So next week we'll do encryption, and then maybe I will combine lab and assignment together or something like that. And then we'll do some final review. We'll see. If not, we will finish the chapter next week, or that will be our last chapter. And then in week 15, I can do a final review in one session, and I'll let you have the rest of the week off so you can prepare for the final exam and work on your project. Okay. Any question? For the final project, do I just make a simple HTTP? Yes, that's fine. You don't need any. If you want to test login, like to brute force it, then you can create an account. But you don't need to do that, right? Yeah, it's just run web services on the local machine, and then you can test it on the local machine. You don't need to, network crazy stuff. No. I think we did a lab where we enable HTTP service using Python, so you can reference that lab, and then you can implement monitoring and security tools on that server. Okay. Meaning that you can write the script for that. Any question? Okay, let me stop recording in case